kind of trying to get back on track this year. It's been a rough start to the year. We're trying to get back to our regular Thursday stuff with work and everything that's going on. My life's been pretty hectic. And tonight, joining us on the show is Cameron Derby. Cameron comes to us. He's the voice of Southern Oregon Speedway. I got to meet him at the racetrack last year and talk a little bit when we were over there. And we talked about it then, and then I reached out. We have our first stream at Wairika coming up on April 8th, and we reached out. Everybody knows I'm not necessarily a professional announcer. I do some stuff. They've heard me do some stuff, so we thought we'd bring in a professional announcer for that night while we're streaming, so we reached out to Cameron. So everybody, welcome Cameron Derby to the show, and everybody make him feel welcome here on a Thursday night.
How's everybody doing? It's weird you say that I am a professional announcer. I still don't consider myself that. I guess I technically am, but when I'm in the booth, I feel like a kid that's watching the races. So,
well, any of us that do any stuff like with the broadcasting or the streaming or anything like that, you really are. It's just you're up there spectating. Yes, you're working, but you're spectating, and we talk about that all the time. Everybody spectates one way or another. Even if you have a car racing there that night, the first thing you do is you run over when you're out of the car and you watch all the other cars on the track. So it's everybody's a fan in some way or another.
I know. I always find it just super strange. Like sometimes I sit up there and I'm watching the cars and I'm pretty much just saying what I'm seeing. I mean, obviously I'm throwing some passion and a little bit of show into there sometimes, but sometimes I just sit there and I go, they just pay me to watch the races. That's what they do. It's not a bad gig to deal with.
Well, Patsy Lice says hello, Roy. Patsy is a friend of my father, so she's tuning in tonight. So thank you, Patsy. We talked a little bit off air. Can you tell us your background and how you got started in this? That's kind of a cool story about that, and tell us a little bit of your background.
In the broadcasting realm or in the racing realm?
In the broadcasting realm.
So I grew up playing just about every sport that you could play when I was a kid, and I did a lot of going to the races and stuff with my family as well. So I kind of always knew that I had that love for it. I never necessarily fell in love with playing one particular sport. And then most of the time I sat in the South Medford high school cafeteria with my friends and we debate sports back and forth. That's what we did at lunchtime is we were that table that everybody walked around because we were passionately talking about, is Jordan better than LeBron or vice versa. So I kind of, if I was going to spend my free time doing this, I may as well get paid to do it too. So I pursued a degree of journalism at the University of Oregon and did a lot of volunteer reporting as a student there with Oregon football games on the sideline, basketball games courtside. And then I interned over at Newswatch 12 in Medford, and they were gracious enough to give me a job when that was done, when I got my degree. So pretty much a week after graduating, I was working in the professional world. So here we are now.
Yeah. Well, Stephen Blakesley was the first from one announcer to another. I've heard nothing but good things. Glad to have you in the Speed Union team too. Stephen, if everybody doesn't know who Stephen is, he's broadcast from Madera, Roseville. You pick tracks. He announces there, does stuff. He works with stuff with Mav TV. We got a hold of him, and he's helped us build up Speed Union from the ground up. That guy. He's what got this stuff up and going, because my technology mind is pretty small. So we relied on him doing a lot of the behind the scenes. So thank you, Stephen. If everybody gets a chance, say hey to him when you see him at the racetrack. We had several other people pop in here. I got to get those up. Eric Schwab, I think is his last name. I can't pronounce it. Derby is the man. Chris Mix, howdy boys. I can't pronounce everybody's last name, so if I butcher it, sorry. See, I'm watching the streams. When I'm looking at my phone because we broadcast to multiple pages, so I get to see. It doesn't always show me on the screen who's talking, so I have to look through the pages and see who all's on there. So it's kind of being active over here. So obviously, you were kind of drawn to racing. Where did that start at, and how did that come about?
So my family's been involved in racing since they were little kids. My dad and my uncles, they were going to races when they were with children out at the Posse grounds. I never got to go there because it was gone by the time I was around. But as long as I can remember, I can look back and find my deepest memory in life, and it involves going to the track on Saturday. So that's where that love kind of started. My dad and I would go and watch for years, and then eventually, I was probably around 4th or 5th grade. He decided that he was going to try out a mini stock. He didn't have any real background in building a car or, being around those kind of racing mechanics. And he literally just built his team from the ground up. And eventually I was old enough to go out, work with them in the pits. And he got connected up with David Steele, who's a phenomenal guy, a great mechanic. He builds a great car. They were friends back when they were in high school, and they linked up, and they created some historic stuff over at the Southern Oregon Speedway that I got to work around. My dad won 4 consecutive track championships. David Steele's won several himself now since my dad's been out of it. They were nice enough to build me one and put me in a car for a little bit when I was in high school, and I ended up winning Rookie of the Year in 2012. And then college came around, so I had to make a choice of driving a car or doing the professional broadcasting thing. So one of those fork in the road situations, but life has always revolved around being out at the track, and I'm really happy to be back and working there again.
Yeah. Well, and I don't know if he wants to talk too much about it, but I know you're coming up at your end of your tenure at where you're currently at, and you're out beating the drum for maybe some other things. I got to watch your video. He did some really cool stories. If you want to share your link in there or send me the link, I'll post it up on here. Go watch his YouTube.
You mean the talent reel, or?
Yeah, the talent reel you shared, because I went back and watched all that. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, I'll find that.
Yeah, because I went back to watch some of the stuff. Now, when I first took notice of you and saw your stuff on Facebook and things like that, and another one of our great sponsors, Robert Wayne Baker from VIP Medical Concierge, popped in here. Says hello, Roy. We had some turmoil at Southern Oregon Speedway with COVID and things that went on like that. I want to say Tanner kind of got everything started with going over there to the track and documenting that through YouTube and his YouTube channel. And then you came out and you did a really nice piece on Southern Oregon Speedway. What prompted you to do that, as far as for your perspective, and how did that come about?
That was an interesting weekend there that I got word of that, because I hadn't really heard of the turmoil that was going on. The track was kind of going downhill in that year before that as well. So it was just one of those situations where the track was kind of quietly going downhill. And then I got a message. They'll have to forgive me because I can't remember who the first person was that sent it for the life of me. It was kind of an influx of messages, and They were saying the track is going to go away. And they sent me some pictures, and it just looked like, even for the time of year that it was in, normally it would, have some grass around it and would look like it needs to be taken care of a little bit, but it looked really concerning. They said that they were in a race to find somebody to promote it. So, I said, if I can go down there and put a microphone on these guys really quick and see if we can blast it out on the media, maybe somebody wants to get involved. And they had a lot of promoting groups that put their name in for it pretty quickly. I'm happy the guys that got it, Southern Oregon Motorsports, got it, because they just throw so much passion into it. But I couldn't let that track dissolve off without, even if I'm not going to be there, it gives me a little bit of comfort in my heart knowing that it's there. If I'm not there, I like to know that people are there watching racing, and there's really good people that have always supported me, that they make their summers out of being there. So if I could just put a little bit out, help save it, hopefully it worked out.
Yeah. Well, we have a bunch of other people jumped on here. Lyle Watson, hi. ABR Motorsports, a smiley. I'm not sure who all these. Then somebody I spoke to earlier today, his name's Brent Huell. He's got a daughter that races legend cars down in Florida. I got the privilege of seeing him with a little show that we did last night and meeting him and his family. One of the things that you need to check out their page, because want to bring awareness to juvenile diabetes and the symptoms for juvenile diabetes. So make sure we're going to have his daughter Lacey on here. I think next week we have the plan. Very talented. She just got inducted into one of the Florida Motorsports Hall of Fames down there here just recently. So excited to talk to her. Billy Jasmer Jr. Derby, thumbs up, peace out, whatever. The Davey Munoz, another announcer from all over this area and a voice on one of the, I want to say ESPN radios down in California, joining in. I got to know Davey really well. He does a podcast every week as well. Davey's All-American Racing. Then I don't know who. I got to keep scrolling through here. Chris Mix, what's up? That's to Eric. He says, not much, miss you, bro. They're talking amongst themselves.
They're having their own discussion over there.
Yeah. So there you go. Hey, Chris, I got to know Chris through racing in the pits too with the Neon Mafia and all that stuff. We always laugh because I always have some neon colors on my car and stuff as well. So it's just, I dig the neon colors just because it's different, I guess is the best way to say that. So, so how did you get asked to be the voice at Southern Oregon Speedway? Because that's kind of I don't know if that's an interesting story, but it seems like it is because I saw your thing on the news.
Yeah, it actually sparked up through the news stories. I did several of them. I would kind of check in and touch base with how the track was coming along, and when Southern Oregon Motorsports got a hold of it, I think it was Hoppus that asked me if I wanted to do it, and it seemed like something that would be pretty complicated just with my work schedule at TV station and contracts are involved and stuff. So I was kind of apprehensive at first, and then Travis Snyder pushed pretty hard. He just kind of kept riding me about it until finally I said, all right, let's talk about it. And I didn't expect to be able to get that kind of time off of work but it worked out and we took off with it. It was really cool to watch because it was one of those things where on opening night, you knew how hard these guys had worked over just 2 or 3 months to save the place. And it was kind of like a feeling of, all right, here we go. We don't really know what we're doing, but we're gonna try it out. We're gonna wing it a little bit. But also it was a feeling of relief because when they dropped the first green flag, it was like, this really happened. Like this really came together and it really happened. And the community rallied around it. The first night was jam packed. It was one of the bigger crowds that I've ever seen there on opening night. And everybody was really nice to me. So I was just grateful for the fans to support it and Snyder for pushing me to do it, because if Snyder and Hoppus wouldn't have pushed me to do it, it probably would have never happened.
Yeah. Well, and Robert Wayne Baker from the VIP Medical Concierge is excited to make the big race this year. He sponsors Jerry Flippo out of Bakersfield, and they're planning on coming up for the R. Charles Snyder and running out of Bakersfield. And he's coming up to show off his services with the IV medication and stuff like that. And I'm telling you guys, take the time, go get the IV done while you're at the racetrack. I can tell you firsthand, amazing product. I stand behind this 110%. If you got any aches or pains, ask for the one with the anti-inflammatories. Works amazing. As you get older, what he's got, amazing product. I'm telling you, I can't say enough stuff about what he is. And speaking of sponsors, everything that we got to do, it revolves around sponsors. I'm going to kick off our first commercial for Workman's Communication. So hang tight.
Tired of calling multiple companies to complete your low voltage projects? Minimize the hassle by calling Workman Communications, your locally owned one-stop shop for all low voltage needs. We tackle everything from commercial and residential data, telephone cabling to access control installation, CCTV, alarms, and audio-video solutions. With no job too big or too small, we'll ensure your project will be completed to your standards with precision quality results. Let's start a new project together.
I got to thank Rick a ton. We wouldn't be doing our show if it wasn't for all of Rick's efforts and work that he put into doing this. So thank you, Rick. Brick Huell, anyone in here chat near New Orleans, we will be there in New Orleans 6th to the 10th for America's Formula Racing, first race for Jason Alder in his F3 Formula car. We are sponsoring with Drive for Diabetes. That's Brick Huell. So take the trip, Roy. Let's roll. Man, I don't want to go to New Orleans. It's hot and humid there. So.
Also, I sent you that reel that you were asking about, and I also sent my Twitter and Instagram handle, so if people want to follow what's going on with the track during the summer. I am always tweeting away about what races are doing what.
All right, I'll try to get those posted up in the comments after we get off. I can't do it all at once here. So now I remember getting to hear you when I was over there. We kind of did the Facebook Live with the Rocky Nash Memorial over there. That's kind of something that I enjoy doing and got to hear you because we were upstairs and right above the speaker. So we got to hear you all night right through the speaker as you were calling that race.
It's kind of hard not to hear me, huh? You had a pump in your ears.
Yeah, it was right above my head. So let me ask you this question. Once you said you haven't ever done the live announcing, what was the biggest hurdle you saw the first night you started? What was the biggest challenge for you?
I think it was just trying to communicate between tower communications or, control of the race and relaying to the people what was going on. It was the first night, so we were dealing with an influx of technological issues, but also I think that the biggest thing that people should appreciate about what announcers do or what broadcasters do is hold the air for so long. When people have got nothing but a setting sun in front of them, you've got to talk for a long time, and it wears on your voice. I remember my voice, I didn't even make it through the trophy dashes before my voice was toast. So I had to learn to really go easy on my voice and try and find ways to relay the passion through other ways instead of just screaming into the microphone. But it's such a natural thing that you want to do when there's loud race cars around.
And it's funny you said that. I listened to Davey's show, I want to say 2 weeks ago, when he had another guy that announces, and I want to say announces down at Paris Auto Speedway or down in Paris, California. It's something Davey said stuck with me. He said when he started, he had somebody that kind of mentored him and said, "Hey, don't yell." He said, this guy told him, "Don't yell. The more you yell, the less you can be excited down the road." He said, if you're constantly yelling, you can't show the excitement, things like that. And he said, it's hard to learn to just sit and talk normal voice inflection. And then if something really excited, and Davey, yes, I'm talking about you because I remember listening to this on the show. Is that something that you had to learn with doing this, or is that something that you've already learned?
One thing that I learned as the year went on is the difficulty of fitting everything in, because there's a lot that's going on in the tower. People are working really hard, right? And are mindful of this is not only for the race car drivers, because they're the most important things out there, but for the fans, this is a show. But the track is also trying to make money at the same time and putting on an event. So they're trying to make sure that they get the races done on time. They get the people a good show in a decent amount of time for people to feel comfortable sitting out there the whole time. So trying to fit everything in, every driver's sponsors, because those are so important to race car drivers. They fund their whole mission. So you really got to make sure that you're the way the drivers tell people about those sponsors when they're in the race cars. But I think what I learned the most was to guide people down the road of the process. So like the heat races are great and they're exciting for race fans. They're just as exciting as the main events are. But in terms of the entire night, the heat races are leading them down a road for their entire journey leading up to the main event. Main event, now we're to a point where there's no more race after this for these guys. It's balls to the wall. They're going to try and do it this time. So just really informing the people on what this does, what this race means. If somebody spins out on lap 4, what this means for the remainder of their night. Focusing on things like that to keep people in the loop instead of just screaming the passion there through those first several races.
Well, and I was surprised you didn't do what I was thinking you would. For me, we did a live stream down at Wairika on a 2-day show. We were down there for the pro stocks. So I know the pro stocks. I know all the guys that are in the pro stocks. If I didn't know them, you can learn it real quick, whatever. The problem I ran into is I don't know the guys that drive the 4-cylinder cars. I know a couple of them just because we've talked in the pits. Sport mod guys, I don't know those guys. You don't know the A-mod drivers. You don't know any of these. I can't remember that stuff. I tried. I go through the pits. I look at the cars. Okay, green car is so-and-so. Yellow car is so-and-so. And try to remember that. You get up there, you get started. It's like, shit, I forgot what everything. I just tried to program myself. So with live scoring and timing, yes, you get the last names. So then I do it. By the second night, we were good. But the first night, man, I looked absolutely stupid.
Yeah, I dealt with that a little bit in the first couple of weeks, but for me, the more I got to just walk through the pits and know who the drivers were, I started to recall not just what car they drove, but the storylines that they were following, the things that they had to do throughout the week. I think that's such an important piece to entertainment at the racetrack, is really relaying to the people in the stands how much these guys work. Every class of race car has its own challenges, its own group of guys that are dedicated to it. And the one that I'll always go to the most, because I feel like it's always the class that starts the night out, and it's the class that doesn't make a lot of noise. A mini stock class at any track is that first class of the night that people sometimes will kind of slide it off their shoulders and say, it's the mini stocks. But that group of people, and I understand that I'm biased because I race mini stocks myself, that group of people will start working on Sunday night, Sunday morning sometimes, and they'll work all the way through Saturday morning, and they'll be doing last-second touches to those cars before they get them to the racetrack. And they're passionate, and those races mean a lot of things to them. And when you understand that, it brings a different level of excitement to even those races.
Yes, and I agree with that. I'm going to tell you right now, and I've said this, and I probably get crucified, and I don't care. One of my favorite classes of the cars on the track are the dang dwarf cars. Absolutely love the dwarf cars. They look like old-style cars. Brent, I'm telling you right now, they're the same thing as the legend cars on dirt. Somebody just posted up, Eric Schwab, the mini stocks are the most passionate about what they do. Sir, I will have to disagree. I'm not going to say which class is all. Racers in general are the most passionate about what they do. I don't care if it's a sprint car driver. I don't care if it's a NASCAR driver. I don't care if it's Kyle Larson. I don't care who you talk to. Every driver is passionate. Even the back marker is just as passionate as the guy that's up front. I hate to say it. Every one of us, everybody puts the time and effort into it, and it makes to the average person, it probably makes no sense that you spend that much time to go out there and do whatever. But Brent and I just had Brent Huell, I just had this conversation today. It's going out, getting in the car, and forgetting everything that went on that week. Last month, whatever. It's just that time on the track where it's just you and the other cars. For me, that's what it is. I don't know if that's what it is for everybody else or not. So I have to disagree on that one.
Loaded up here. There's a comment that I've been touching on this subject for as long as I can remember being in racing. Brent posted it. The youth are the most important ones at the track. The kids that are the fans and drivers. This is something that every track has to understand. The future of the racetrack is there. And the more that you can, when I was a kid, I remember going to the racetrack and it felt like the coolest thing in the world to be able to talk to a race car driver. And granted, as an adult, you understand a lot of these race car drivers, they're your everyday guys in the city. But to a kid, it felt like it was the coolest thing ever to be able to do it. And it made us want to be there, and it made us want to be a race car driver one day. And this year, I just saw one of the coolest things that I've seen in so long. Carly Holmes won her first career race at the Southern Oregon Speedway. She's a 14-year-old girl, won a sprint car feature event at Southern Oregon Speedway. And it was one of those things where you could watch from the tower the entire crowd start to rally around her. And when she won, the whole venue was on board. It was one of those things where just that everybody was happy to see it. Nobody was upset. And the following week, we had her come up and sign some autographs and stuff for kids. And her brother Tanner is so fantastic at spreading the love around to every track that he goes to, and he's such a great self-promoter and very supportive of Carly. But I walked out of the tower about halfway through the night, and Carly was out there, and she just had this massive line of kids that wanted to talk to her, and she's a kid too. And I just thought to myself, that is the future of the sport. And look at how passionate they are. Look at how much good she's doing. And she's only 14 years old. It was incredible.
Yeah, Eric Schwab just mentioned somebody in Brent's commenting and stuff like that. Marissa Henson did the same thing. Marissa Henson is a great ambassador to this sport. I do not know her personally. Phenomenal, talented driver. And we're getting off into a subject, and I preach this. I talk about this often on the show, and I get criticized for it, and that's fine. I don't care. We need more women in race cars, period. End of discussion. We need more women. I was a huge Danica Patrick fan. She embarrassed me in NASCAR. We're going to leave it at that. It is what it is. I'm going to say it's like being a Pittsburgh Steeler fan. Yes, I get it. I consoled with my Pittsburgh fans along with said, dude, I feel your pain. I got it every week. But she was awesome for this sport. She brought young women, got interested in the sport because of her. Haley Deegan, I don't care if she's ever a winner or not, a great ambassador to the sport. Carly Holmes, Marissa Henson, all of these are great for our sport out here. Roy's gushing about Danica again. That's from Chris Nick. Yes, you're right. I am 110%. Huge fan of it. Jennifer Jo Cobb, Shauna Robinson, all of these guys are pioneers in this. Shirley Muldowney, cannot talk about that enough. It's awesome. In Carly Holmes, and I had Tanner on the show, enjoyed talking to him immensely. Probably one of the most talented people at using social media that I know in my direct, that I know is see at the racetrack, stuff like that. And I'll say it right here, Tanner, and I'm sorry to throw you under the bus. Your sister's a better driver. We see that in the go-karts this year. She phenomenal. What I like about those two when they race go-karts, yes, they wrecked each other. There's no hard feelings afterwards. It's family. It's like, hey, we raced hard. It is what it is. Neither one of them had hard feelings. Carly is extremely talented in that car, and you can see that right away. I like the fact that he goes to the track with her and videos her on the track, and then they talk about it.
I think it's something that's been lacking. I think that over the years, the sport saw the exit of a lot of icons in the sport that people naturally gravitated towards. And the sport hasn't done as good of a job of investing in the younger core of drivers so now, like, take, for example, and I'm going to give out the extremes here, right? So I had the Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s, the Jeff Gordons, Tony Stewart's, these guys that left the sport and had these major fan bases that were so loyal to them. As they exited, that group of people no longer had somebody to root for, because the sport, in my opinion, didn't do a very fantastic job of giving attention to those younger drivers, what those drivers do, how passionate those drivers are. And people, this is one of those sports where, imagine if your favorite NFL team just ceased to exist out of nowhere. You know what I mean? Like, what would you do? How would you feel? So when your driver exits or retires, you need to have that next person that you're ready to root for. And what we can do at the dirt track level, I think, is connect fans to the drivers and let them see what those personalities are like and involve them in that other side of the track, so that it's not just something that they do on Saturdays. It's something that they think about throughout the week. They think about going to the racetrack. They think about what their drivers are doing throughout the week in order to prepare for that show, because there's so much that goes into it. And I think that when we feel that little bit of love, that connection to all of the drivers, not just one, it will really spark a fan base that won't go away.
Well, I'm beginning to wonder if I got deleted off Facebook now. This says all of a sudden we stopped streaming to Facebook, but we're still streaming to YouTube. I don't know what's going on here. Hang on just a second. let's call it. I'm going to end it right here and we'll go back live. Give me 1 second, Cameron. So hold that thought right here. That was weird. It hasn't ever done this.